Hi, I created this layout a couple of months ago, and I had lots, when I posted it on Facebook on the unofficial layout group, I had lots of people asking for the instructions as they were very unsure of how it was done, and it really is easy. So I created mine using the CCS hexagon purple. Now if you don't have this, you could use the gemstone, the hexagon. It's going to be much smaller, and I've cut a couple out as a comparison. Let me reach over and find them for you in my preparation beforehand. Okay, so oops. So that was the size. I don't know whether you can see that. That was, let me have a look. That was the size I created in the black here with the purple hexagon. And this is the size I created with the gemstone hexagon. You can see it's a lot smaller. If I grab a piece of cardstock, you're going to be able to see the difference. Let me grab that for you. Okay, there we go. You can see what the difference is. And there's a big difference between them. So that led me to thinking that, you know, if you want to get one this size, because when I initially created this idea, I started with, would you believe, the hexagon punch, because I wanted to create it as an embellishment. The old, large, dark blue one with the large and the small in the same punch. And it turned out so well, I went, you know what, I can probably recreate this as a full page layout. And that's where I got this. But as you can see with the gemstone, it is just too small. And so I'm going to have a go at recreating it today using our CCS circle. Now I've worked out that you could use the smallest one on the outside, but I think they're going to be too large, especially if you want to do like what I've done and matte the background. So I will be using the largest one on the inside with the red and green blade. So let me show you what else we're going to need before we continue. Put that to one side. So to create your frame, you're going to have to cut a lot of CCS circles out. 14 in total fact. So you will need 2 sheets of the same colour cardstock. And each frame will have 7 circles, and I'll show you that very shortly. Then I wanted to use the NSD product. So out of the sampler pack, I've chosen the Buttercup and the green, and they're going to create some embellishments for me. And then my papers, my background papers, will be out of the accessory pack. And these 2 papers I found really busy. So I decided that the light colour one will be my background, this one here. And then I will be able to matte it on the lemon paper, which is the other side of that. So that will give me quite a nice contrast. Now if you wanted to cut a frame out and then put it onto a sheet of cardstock to save one piece of paper, you could just cut the frame and then flip one piece, so that will save some paper. So we might attempt to do that and then just put it onto a plain sheet of cardstock, so that will matte the whole lot. So that's out of the accessory pack. We're going to use some of the embellishments. I figured out of this laser cut bundle, you've got these beautiful green leaves, and I want to create like a lemon vine effect. So we can use these leaves, and I'll cut this border up and we should be able to use that within our frame. So effectively we're going to end up with something similar to these frames that they make, that they come cut or ready for you, perfectly laser cut. But if you don't have a Cricut machine, you can create something like this. And I figure that probably in the future, if I was to cut lots of squares and rectangles, I could probably reproduce something like that also. So this is the actual vine I'm going to use, and that came out of that laser cut pack. So the other tools I will require is not essential, but if you have the silicone mat, if you were lucky enough to get one of those when they had the special promo, they're great. Otherwise you'll have to clean your mat off, but you definitely need your 13 by 13 mat. You will also need your 12-inch trimmer, a leaf punch of some sort, and this is my favorite, the 5-leaf. I used it in the hexagon layout. And I'm going to have a go at creating some lemons for my vine with the lemon punch as well. And I sort of had a bit of a pre-play with one to see if it would work. And that was done with not the buttercup, but a different colour lemon, and it kind of works. So instead of cutting out multiple lemons, I decided to just take a green dot pen and colour the top. So we'll be doing that. And then essential is a black jewel tip pen and your precision point adhesive. You could muck around with your repositionable tape if you want to, but I just think the precision point adhesive is going to be really accurate for it. So let's get started. Now we're going to start by cutting our this sheet of paper, and we're going to do a frame so that we can, not waste the paper and just use one sheet and adhere it to a sheet of cardstock. Now usually I like to have, a very, very small 1/4-inch border, but it's going to be slightly larger than that due to the constraints of being able to put bull clips on my trimmer. So I've marked it out at 3/4 of an inch either end, so that's 11 1/4. 3/4 of an inch is my first spot, and the next spot is at 11 1/4. So that should effectively work. So it just means when we line it up on the trimmer here, we will, instead of 1/2 inch, we will be going to the 3/4 of an inch mark, and that should give us an even frame the whole way around. I mean, I'm not really too concerned as long as we're conserving some paper. So let me see. So it'll be larger than I normally like to have it, but that's fine. So this is our first step. Then we're going to put the frame together next. I think Megan Jacks was the clever lady who came up with this idea with the little bull clips, and I show it to everyone because it is such a clever idea with our trimmer, and it means that you can do it fairly quickly and save lots of paper, especially if you've got something pretty like this print. So that effectively is our frame, and we will use it just like this. So that's how it's going to go together. So we'll need to stick it, because I've cut it as a frame, or adhere it to a sheet of cardstock. And I've picked my cardstock already, a sheet of white cardstock, so you can see. So we'll go ahead and adhere that. And fantastic. And that way I'm only using one sheet of cardstock. So I'll take my black out from underneath. That's what I've been cutting my circles out of, and I've gone and pre-prepared that. So let me go ahead and adhere that down for you. And then that way I still get my nice bordered edge, but I'm saving some of this lovely lemon paper for a future project. So if you were lucky enough to get the accessory pack, it's got some beautiful sheets in it, and I don't want to use all this small lemon. To cut our rings to make our frame, remember we're going to be cutting 14, and I'll just cut one to show you how it's done. So using your large CCS circle, we're going to use the inside, and we'll start with the green blade. Pop that into your track, cut it all the way around. So if you've never done this before, it's not hard to do. The most important thing is don't move your template. So take that out. That'll be used for something else in future. So after the green blade, we're going to use the red blade in the tracks all the way around. Go a couple of times just to make sure you have cut it. And then before moving, make sure it's going to move. We are going to cut 14 of these. So keep going until you've got all 14 done. Now I did record, well I thought I did, record putting it together, but discovered that my camera actually wasn't going, and that's not helpful to you. But so instead of putting the whole thing together again, I'm just going to show you or explain to you how to do it. So I started with the center circle. I adhered these two sides, then I adhered this and got this circle in, and then you can see those 3 points will fit that in. Same with the bottom end, so those 2 points, and now I'm on to the 3 points. And so if I put a little bit of adhesive down, you can see, I'll go back and put that because the rest of it had already dried, unfortunately, to be able to pull it apart. And you can see how that has come together. So that's basically our frames. And once that dries, this frame is going to be adhered over the top to this. And you can see that's going to be the basis of our frame to go into the center of our layout. So we'll let that dry and we'll come back and show you how to pop that together to make sure that it's all correct. And we'll have a look at then putting it onto our backing paper, and I'll find a photo in the process. Thank you. Now I'm going to adhere, the next part is for us to adhere our 2 round frames together now that they've dried. Make sure you turn them over so the least side of glue can be seen. And you may need to go back and rub a little bit off later using a rubber. But the idea is to have the center frames matching, but offset it by half a turn. So if you get your first one down pretty much well where you put it together the first time, then let me get the camera right for you. Then the second one, it's just giving it a slight turn. So you can see that that's right. Now we just give it a slight turn, keeping it together and trying to keep it even is roughly where it's going to go. So now the tricky part is adhering it all together. So I would start with putting my adhesive all around the center, using our glue precision point glue pen all through the center of it. And this is the biggest part of the layout, is getting this framework put together, because after that you have the license to do whatever you like, and it's just gluing it together then. So if we get the center part done first, then we can go in and add little dots to where it joins and just get those regions. So let's start with the center. Like I say, line it up, give it that half turn, and lining it up. So you try to line up that center circle so it adheres. And then we're going to be getting these points where they join, just the points where they join, and that's why I didn't put adhesive into all of these places. So if we lift that slightly, we should be able to get it just under there and just under there, and then we can work out where it's going to adhere on other parts of the frame and join them. And you will continue to do that the whole way around, adhering it as best you can. And for this part, it may be easier to just use your repositionable tape runner, just to get it in place. So I'll continue to do that, and I think we'll come back to you when it's all adhered together and dried. Okay. Now it's time to start putting it all together. Now this is how your frame should effectively look once it's all dried and ready to go down. So that is going to go in the center of our backing paper. I have found a photo of my youngest and her best friend she's had since primary school, which is this photo, and I've cut it using the smallest CCS circle on the outside red blade. I've also cut 2 mats. I did this lovely blue because of the blue background. We were at a restaurant in the background there with the green blade, and then a black one with the blue blade. But as I was going through, I discovered that in the laser cut frames, they had this great frame. So I'm contemplating using this as well, because I think it just helps the whole photo. So I think that that would look great. So we might pop that in the center, over the center. So we're going to adhere that down, and now this is where your repositionable tape will come in to its own. So you will need to, I'll move this away, we'll get our silicone mat out again so we can turn it over, add our repositionable tape. So carefully add this to your frame in all the places that you will want it to adhere. Now my photo in the center, I could pop up with foam squares, which I may do, and so it has that bit of a 3D look, and I think I did that with the hexagon one as well, because I like foam squares a lot. I think they add great dimension without getting too lumpy bumpy. So just need to make sure you've got it in all the places that it needs to stick. Adhere. Right, that should be enough. Move our mat away because otherwise my paper will stick to that. And we need to get it centered now, so work out which way you want it to go. Let's have a look at it that way. I kind of like that way. I think that looks great. Turn it over, and we're going to, oh, I've got a little tiny bit of a frilly bit there I want to get rid of. Yuck. There we go. Matter of centering it before we pop it down. So you can see a little bit fiddly, but it really is seriously not that hard. Not as hard as you envisaged, I think. Some people might have worked it out beforehand, but it's actually easier to put together than what we would think. So that's the actual frame on there. Now our next step is to add the center photo. So I think I'm going to use that. I think by itself it's not enough, but I think we're going to use the whole thing. So I will add some adhesive. And I definitely think you want your mat the same colour as your frame that sits behind it, because that's what helps blend it into the whole thing and cover up these joins in the centre and makes them invisible. And it's all about obviously getting it even. So we debating whether to foam square the whole thing, I think. So we might adhere this. So just get the edges of this. I really like the white side with the yellow dots on this, and I was tempted to use it, but because of my very muted background, it would have blended way too much. It needed some colour. Hence why we've got the bright yellow. So try to line that up so it's nice and even. And I think this is a frame I would have struggled otherwise to use, but I think it looks great in the application I'm using it in. So this way we're going to see a little bit of our blue still. We're going to see our black mat, but the yellow frame, which will match the lemons on her friend's dress, will just blend in perfectly. Oh, we might move that across slightly. I can see it's over to one side just a little bit too much. And this is me just being fussy. So now it's a matter of all adding, and I will pop that up with some foam squares once we get to that part. Now it's adding all the embellishment part like I did on my original. I punched out, and these were all done using punches. So that was a 5-leaf punch. That was the trio leaf punch we had from years ago. And this was a flower out of one of the mystery boxes that we had. And I just punched them and brought them to life by doing some pen work around them. Not exactly accurate. Not sure whether I'm going to do that with this layout as far as the pen work. We will see, because I will be using some of the lemons out of the embellishment pack. Like I said, possibly this leaf vine, the laser cut, which I will take some scissors and strategically cut apart into about 4 pieces. Or, yep, possibly 3 or 4 pieces to use. The other thing I thought I might go ahead and do is punch out some leaves and possibly some of the leafy vine border as well, to create, you know, the effect on the sides, and then make some lemons. So let me go ahead and punch some of those out, and then we'll come back and look at, you know, how we're going to piece it all together. Okay, now it's time to embellish it. What I've done is I've gone and I've used the couple of sheets of cardstock out of the NSD cardstock sampler pack, and I've punched 2 in the dark green and 2 in the lighter green of the leafy vine punch. So I don't even know whether we're going to need this in the end, but we'll have a look. And then I've gone ahead and just cut them into little pieces. So I've cut them up, and then taking a pen, and I don't know whether you can see that, I have gone around the edges of it all, just purely to save time, to give them some definition, like I did in the hexagon one. Yeah, I think it just brings punches to life. I've also done in the 2 colours the 5-leaf punch as well, and I really think that this punch was the most versatile punch CM has ever released. So how we do that, and hopefully you can see, take your black journal pen, and we just need to go around the outside, and I'm a long way from it, so being a bit closer probably helps. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect, especially with leaves, because leaves are very organic, same with flowers, and they don't have to be perfect. I think it would have helped had my head had been closer to the table, but that's okay. You'll get the idea. Around the edge, and then just give it some few little strokes, and it will bring that punch from a 2D to a 3D life and bring it to life. The lemons, I've gone ahead and added detail on those as well, and here's one I've left for you so I can show you exactly how I did it. I'll move those out the road. And I've just taken a green dot pen, and the top of it I've just coloured. If you've got some throwaway card behind your punch, then it won't matter if you go right over the edges and get it right to the end. And then at the stem, I've just sort of done this arch bit there, so it kind of, it looks like it would have on the tree. Then we want to go around the edge with a black pen and just try to get it as close to the edge as you can. And that will help bring it to life a little bit more. A few dots on it because lemons have dimples, and quick easy lemon. The smaller ones I created, just in case I needed a few smaller ones. Don't know whether you can see that there. Can you see that? So how I've created them is I've punched out some of, if you were lucky enough to get the promotion with the grapes, I punched out some grapes and then purely took my microtip scissors, and from the stem just followed it around Gave it that little dimple at the bottom and followed it back around again. And you get the idea. That creates your lemon, roughly. Did the same thing with the dot pen. Gave it a green stem. Bit there, so it looks a bit more natural. And went around the edge the same with the larger lemons. So if you do the same with flowers or leaves, it really does help to bring your punches to life, almost like your own embellishments. Now, I've had people say to me when I've done this before, oh, I'm so worried about, you know, ruining my punched out image. You got to remember, it's just cardstock. You can't hurt it. It's not like you are doing it directly on a page that you've already put photos on. So if it doesn't work, it's a small piece of punched cardstock. You throw it away and you start again. Simple as. But the more you do it, the better you get at it. So they're my embellishments, all pretty much all handmade. So now, if we lay our photo down, roughly where we're going to put it, and I will be using foam squares on that. I haven't decided whether I'm edging the edge of the paper or not. I might see how it looks at the end. And then we really simply, using our longer vines, I'm looking for a longer piece, and of course I can't find one right now. Using our longer pieces, want to just put them into place and tuck them underneath each other until you find where you're happy with them. I might use a shorter piece, looking for a smaller piece. And you can see how that's starting to grow. And it's just a matter of tucking it behind. When you adhere it, tuck them behind each other. And you will find that that will all come together. Until you have exactly what you want. And if you can also, like I have here, tuck it underneath the frame in places, because I think that also helps with your movement a little bit, as long as you can't see the very end and you can't see exactly where it's coming from. And then you just keep building until you have it exactly where you want it. Then you can start adding things like your lemons. I'm just trying to give you a bit of an idea of how that might look. I didn't know whether these smaller ones would work, but I think they would. So you can see how that's already coming together really beautifully just by a bit of playing there. There we go. And you can see the two different colour greens are working together really well. So just keep doing this until you are really happy where everything's sitting. And then once you're really happy with where it's all sitting, then you need to adhere it down piece by piece. Now I'm going to do a piece out that side, but I'll also do one coming out the other side to keep that like I did with this one. So I'll have them coming out both sides. Longer piece here. Let's move that around a bit. We'll keep our photo there to keep it. And you'll be very surprised how good that looks really quickly. Might just move the lemons out the road. And we might just try moving these around a little bit. So get them all laid into place first and work out where you want to go with it before adhering anything down, because I really think that then it's going to be easier to stick down once it's looking exactly how you want it to. And you can always just use a tiny little bit of repositionable tape to hold in place when you're trying to work out where they're going. Like I say, the most important thing is to not see the ends of your leaves, so you don't know where they're coming from. And I think that help to create the illusion. All about tucking them in. And you can see that's really coming together now. And I've just done this very, very quickly for you. But you can see it coming together. And I think by the time, I think I need a little bit more up the top. But by the time we add some of these lemons to this layout, it's going to come together really beautifully. It needs a little bit more length up here into that corner. So I might have to rebuild this top corner a little bit more. Darker green one over here, I think. But I'm not sure I even need the laser cut ones, because I think that's coming together really gorgeous. So all right, well, I will go off camera and get all this adhered down, and then come back to you with the finished layout. But you can see that it's going to be great when it's finished. So let me finish it off and I'll come back to you. Thank you. Okay, now time to wrap up. So you can see I've adhered all my pieces of leafy vine and my 5-leaf punches, and added my lemons to it. And so you can see also that some of them went under my frame and some went over, and I think that also helps it along quite well. But pretty much, well, I think that with leaves and flowers and so forth, there's no right or wrong, because they're very, very organic. And I've added my photo, and there was a sticker from the NSD project recipes that was a lemon, but I didn't like what it said, so I found out of the little embellishment pack, I found this title, and I used the old dark blue circle punch to just make it fit the lemon, and use foam squares obviously, but you could add the pen work to the edges if you like. I think I'm going to leave it out, but pretty much, well, there is my 2 frame layouts, one using hexagons and one using circles, and I think they both work really, really well. So I think this is something we could use on many other layouts. But thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy my instructional video. Thank you.